This is the Confessions of an Ex-Nuwaubian Part 6. So, we left off where the sister told me I had to leave because I got in a fight with her crackhead boyfriend, and I understood, you know what I'm saying? I instigated the fight. You know, I would throw money at him, like I said. You know, we would joke on him and pick on his clothes and shit like that. And I was just dame dashing him all day, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, we had to go. So, I wanna introduce you to two important people. The first one is, you know, my friend, which is who I stayed with, his sister. We all stayed together. I'm gonna call him Maceo. He plays an important role in the upcoming parts of the videos. And Denise was a friend of me and my ex-girlfriend. The one that cheated on me, she was a friend of both of us. To make the long story short, how we met was my ex-girlfriend got kicked out of her apartment. She had 3 roommates. 2 of the roommates left her with the rent, and she got kicked out. Being that my girlfriend at the time, my ex-girlfriend, she was from New York, she didn't have nowhere to stay, so she had to go to a homeless shelter. And you know, I felt bad, you know what I mean? So I would visit her, and it's crazy because Denise, they met each other at the homeless shelter, and I would go visit, you know, my ex-girlfriend, and she introduced me to Denise. And Denise was in a homeless shelter, I don't know for what, but she didn't have no family at all either, and she was from New York. So we wind up getting a room, you know, a boarding room in the, you know, me and my girlfriend. And the shit was atrocious. It was up. I mean, it was like we were the only ones that weren't on crack. You know, the rooming house, you know, it had a couple, a married couple. I'm not making none of this shit up. I'm not embellishing on the truth. I'm being real, okay? Roll with me, let's go. So, the husband and wife was on crack. The wife would go out and trick and bring the money back so they could buy crack. Now, the landlord that we had to pay money, you know, weekly to $80 a week, stayed right beside us. The couple that was crackheads, that was the landlord's son. The landlord's son's son sold crack to the father. It's crazy, but I'm not making this shit up. So this shit went on, and it was crazy, you know. But you know, we ain't had nowhere to stay. I wanted to get her out of the homeless shelter. So you know, I got into the room joint, and I stayed with her. Right, shit up. I remember one time, you know, it had furniture in there. You know what I'm saying? It had a big dresser. Right, it was roaches and shit, and I was like, what the roaches coming from? I pulled the back of the dresser out, and the whole dresser was covered with roaches. And then late at night, I would hear like little noises and shit in the ceiling, and it was like mice. This shit was just crazy. That was the lowest part of my life, period. Living in those up situations. We had to share the kitchen, we had to share the bathroom, and it was just crazy, you know. And the son's son, he was selling crack, but he wasn't a bad guy, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they had guns, you know. It was him and his friend, they had guns and shit like that. I seen them, you know. It wasn't nothing. We used to build and shit, and I gave him, like, I gave him books to read and shit, and he was cool. So the landlord had another son, which was the drug dealer's uncle. That used to come, and every time he would come, he would see the son selling drugs, and he'd be like, yo man, get off of my mother's property. Don't sell no drugs ever again here. He used to do that shit all the time. Till one day, he did it, and I knew it was gonna be a problem. So they're arguing. The drug dealer and the drug dealer's uncle, they're arguing. They're going around the house, right? So the uncle smacks the shit out of the drug dealer and tells him get the off of the property again. They arguing. They go all the way around to the side of my window, and then all I hear is pop, 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 pop. I run outside. The uncle is laying down on the ground, 4 holes in his chest, and he's wheezing like, and I'm like, yo, man, about to die. So I'm looking down on him like, damn, up. So everybody is like panicking. My girlfriend, she's like shaking and shit, and I'm like, yo, you don't even know this. So in the corner of my eye, I'm seeing the drug dealer jump in the car and drive off. Next day comes, they patched the up. Believe it or not, the uncle survived. 4 shots in his chest, survived. He didn't press no charges. The drug dealer, the son, he comes back and continues to sell drugs as if nothing happened. And that shit, I'm not making this shit up. I couldn't believe it. So Denise, when we left and we got our own room, she wound up, going to church and getting saved, and she got married, and she moved into an apartment, and she knew the shit that we was going through, and we told her what happened, and she got up the fucking money to get us the fuck up out of there. So she moved us into the apartment building that was right behind her, right? I'm saying this to say, to tell you, how she's important. Denise, that is. So she winds up moving us, giving us the money to get into an apartment. She furnished the apartment and all of that shit. I don't know whether it was Jesus, the church members, the pastor. I don't know who the was. All I know is she helped us out a lot. Right? So, when the sister told me I had to go, I called her up. She said, you know what? You can come stay with me and my husband. I wound up staying with her. One day I'm sitting outside minding my business, not taking heed. Like I told you, we stayed behind her. Now, my ex-girlfriend still lived there, but she moved that cheating on me with, right? She walks past with him. So we don't say shit, They just mind their business, I'm minding mine. So then I go back in the house and I'm like, yo, you know who I saw? She was like, yeah, who did you see? I was like, the ex. She's like, oh, word. Now taking heed, Denise still was, talking with my ex. And she was like, yo, he's beating her ass, right? I'm like, I looked at her just like this. Get a punch in for me. Make sure you tell her when he punch her in the stomach, make sure he yell out my name. That's on me. Right? So I stayed there for like a week or 2, and the husband started tripping like, and I don't blame him. I'm a decent looking guy, and Denise really liked me, and we would stay up all night talking and building and shit, and I just knew that the energy wasn't right, and I knew eventually I would have to put my hands on him, or he would have to put his hands on me. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go. I left. I went to Greensboro, North Carolina, and it's crazy because like during that time there was a hearsay, there was word on the street that Doc said to close all the bookstores down and for everybody to migrate down south to Edenton, Georgia, around Tama-Re, right? So the bookstores got closed, and all of these holy art thou people that said I'll never sell bootleg movies, such as Nitro, the one that had his college degree and he was a self-published author, and just a whole lot of other people that just was just too goody for bootleg movies. Those started selling. So I'm seeing mad Nuwaubians, like summer everywhere I go, just posted up selling bootleg movies, right? So I went to my friend's house. He said I could stay there for a week, right? My friend had a younger brother. His younger brother liked me. He was feeling what I had to say, and his younger brother changed, from he used to eat pepperoni pizzas and shit like that. That became a vegetarian, and he was into the doctrine and shit like that. So once again, here we go. Wherever I go and start changing and shit for some odd reason, the older brother saw that shit and was like, yo, man, you gotta go. So I left, right? I wound up staying with this broad that I used to in high school. and she stayed in the same community. She got me an apartment, right? And I got my first apartment in Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, right up the street was a Chinese food restaurant and a barbershop, and I posted up a table selling my bootleg movies there, and I was doing pretty good, man. You know what I'm saying? I was buying clothes once again. I met this dude named Karan from Brooklyn, and he mad cool. You know what I'm saying? We used to go out and just wild out and shit, like smoking weed. He taught me how to smoke weed in the club. I mean, like how to like cuff it and puff it, push the smoke out where nobody knows what doing. So we was like the cool niggas in the club and shit. And Karan was mad cool, fly, you know what I'm saying? And you know, it's crazy because like would fear him because he got shot in his head, so he had a steel plate in his head, straight up. And he was like, "Yo, B," he used to talk like that. "Yo, B, yo, son, if somebody punched me in my head right here, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die because I got a steel plate in my forehead." And you could kind of see it. His forehead was kind of disfigured somewhat. But anyway, things were going good. You know, I ran into this broad because, like I said, you know, I had to go back and forth to New York to get the bootleg movies and shit like that. I ran into this broad on the way back down, you know, going on a Greyhound bus. She was from Brooklyn. You know, we got cool. I wound up smashing that. You know, I was just doing my thing, and I wound up meeting some other broad that was from, where was she from? Spanish Harlem, right? And she digged me. You know, she used to walk up to the barbershop and shit, and everybody was on her shit because this broad was fine, right? I'm gonna call her Jessica. Jessica, we was cool, and I didn't think I could get. I wound up hitting it, and I just became very infatuated by her. You know, she wasn't my type like that. Like, she was totally opposite. She was like on some bourgeois shit, and I'm a normal, down to earth person. But I was infatuated by her ass and her body, how bodacious she was. You know, and I love dark skinned women too. So, we wind up doing some shit that I regretted. I told her we shouldn't do. We wound up getting an apartment together. So, we in an apartment and shit like that. I ran into this dude. A&T had their annual homecoming and shit like that. I go to the homecoming, and I run into this dude at the gas station. I'm gonna call him JJ. And he's selling movies and shit. And I'm like, you know, where you get your movies from? Because my thing is, I wanted to try to wholesale him some movies. So the bootleg movies would be like $250 a box. $250 a piece, and I would get 90 in a box, right? So I was gonna put $250. I was gonna charge him $3.50. So I was gonna get a dollar to $1.50 off of him, right? He was like, "Yo, I get my movies from such and such and such." I'm like, "Yo, I got better quality." It's like we talking like we selling crap, but we selling movies and shit. I was like, "Yo, man, you should me or whatever." Make the long story short, that Nuwaubian. So we got tight, we got cool and whatever, right? So we used to go around, aside from me having my own spot, we used to go around and hit barbershops and different things like that. So it's crazy because that's when I ran into Margot. And like I told you, Margot told me that, you know, everything was straight, you know. He feared for his life, and that's the reason why he left. That the W said he had to go, and he kicked him out of the bookstore, and he had to, you know, he left. He fled the scene, right? So I'm meeting Nuwaubian after Nuwaubian after Nuwaubian. I'm going to different bookstores like the Winston-Salem bookstore, and I'm sitting here and I'm looking like, I'm saying to myself, eventually I'm gonna have to go back to the bookstore. You know what I'm saying? Because I still believe that Dr. York was the master teacher. I still believed in the Anunnakis. I still believe, because this was in the 90s, so the Y2K, it was gonna happen. It was in 1999. It was gonna happen the next year, 2000, right? That all the computers are gonna shut down, and that it's gonna be chaos. So I'm sitting here panicking because I'm saying to myself, damn, I gotta, you know, and that Winston-Salem was basically the only bookstore that was open at that time in the state of North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm panicking because I'm like, yo, man, I gotta, become part of a bookstore, because, like I said, everybody's migrating down south because this Y2K thing is gonna happen, and the computers is gonna roll back, and it's gonna be chaos, right? And I'm saying to myself, I'm going to this bookstore, and I'm saying, God damn, it's the same shit. I'm seeing the same shit that I saw in my bookstore, with the exception of bootleg movies and strip clubs. The same shit. And that's why I realized, after meeting a couple Nuwaubians, that this organization is f***ed up, because the people in it are f***ed up. A lot of people tend to talk about Dr. York. Dr. York was a person, but his congregation, the people that were in it, were just as he was. Period. So, make long story short, I'm like, yo, I gotta get out of here. We move into, our lease was up, we move into another apartment. As we're unloading our shit, it's two dudes that's standing outside lifting weights, right? And one of them is like, yo, man, are you moving here? I was like, yeah, so he was like, he introduced himself. I'm gonna call him Yahshua. Yeah. He was like, yo, my name is Yahshua. This is Eddie right here. We're gonna be your neighbors, whatever. You need anything, just let us know, whatever, right? So, make long story short, I go out, hustle. I come back. My girl tells me, yo, I got out of the cab and I had a bunch of groceries. Like I told you, my girl is fly. I got out of the cab, I had a bunch of groceries. Yahshua helped me take the groceries in the house. And he said he wanted to talk to you because I had a bookshelf. When you walk in the kitchen, I had a bookshelf, and all of the books, of course, was Dr. York's books. He said he wanted to talk to you. I was like, all right, cool. I go over there, talk to him. He's like, yo, you Nuwaubian? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yo, man, I read the books too. I used to be part of the Greensboro bookstore until they closed it. So we talking, and then it's like, he's saying that he's with Dr. York, but then he's saying that he's doing his own thing. Like he's forming his own organization, and that he has his own doctrine, and that would I like to be a part of it, right? So I'm like, nah, that's okay, right? So JJ picks me up. Lo and behold, JJ was part of the Greensboro bookstore too, and he knows Yahshua. He tells me, yo, man, that's crazy. That mother crazy. Like in our bookstore, then he starts telling me stories of what goes on and what went on in the Greensboro bookstore. Like they were one chick, they were running. It was a Nuwaubian chick, because some of the bookstores, they turned it into a bookstore / house. So some of the bookstores, they all lived in the bookstore. That particular store, they lived together, right? He was like, yo, just one chick. They would be one chick, and then they would be drinking liquor and just doing all types of shit. He said they were into some cultism shit or whatever. He was like, yo, stay away from him, right? So I was like, all right, cool. So one day, I leave, go get, going out hustling again. I come back. My girl says, Yahshua knocked on the door. I was like, what he knock on the door for? She's like, he gave me this pamphlet, and I'm looking through it, and I'm like, I told us I'm not into his doctrine. So why the f is he, you know what I'm saying? With the shit. Next thing I know, he knocks on the door. I open it up. He said, yo, he asked for my girl. He was like, yo, your girl here? I'm like, why do you need to talk to my girl? He was like, I just gotta ask her, some basic information about, the pamphlet that I gave to her. I said, man, if you don't get the out of my goddamn door. He's like, yo, why are you being so hostile? I said, you're not talking to my girl. Bam! Slam the door right in front of his face, right? So this dude I knew named eBay. Crazy. It's so crazy. I'm not making none of this shit up. From New York. I told him I had a problem. He gives me a Glock. I put the shit under the pillow in my couch. I'm like waiting for him because I know he may knock on that door again. I see him one day. It's like 5 or 6 with him, right? I go back in the house. I get the gun, put it in my motherfucking pocket, walk past him. He don't say shit. So after a week and a half, I didn't hear nothing from him. I didn't really see him or none of that. I said, you know what, man? There's no point in me having a gun because I don't think he gonna pop off with nothing, right? I give the gun back to eBay. So JJ picks me up. We go out and hustle in the barbershops. We come back. This is late at night. We sitting here talking in the car. Yahshua comes up to the door and starts talking to JJ because, like I said, they know each other from the bookstore. And then he says, yeah, you know, how you doing or whatever. And then he looks over there and he was like, yeah, that over there ain't got nothing to say. I ain't say nothing. He was like, yo, you heard what I said? And I snapped. Now taking heed, Yahshua's 6'1", 250, 300, easy. And he's stocky and built. I snapped. I said, ran around the back of the van, because JJ had a van. Ran across the back of the van. He pulls out the gun, puts it right in my forehead, and I put my hands up. And next thing you know, he said, "Bow! Bow!" Hit me with the gun like 4 or 5 times in my face. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but I had to have like 8 stitches right here. My lip was busted. This right here was busted open. Blood was everywhere. I'm trying to get away from this. I'm up right now. I'm crawling under a car and he's pulling me up from the car. JJ breaks the shit up.